Hope you guys are having a good time. Thank you so much for joining. Feel free to argue back in the chat. Why am I blurry? Alright, just pull back. There we go. That's much better. Alright, next. Alright, this is gonna take a while. I'm gonna try and... I'm gonna keep this a little bit tighter because there's so many of them. Man, we still got some tier lists to go. My voice is gonna be shot tomorrow. First, and I will say from this point on, I have not done any amount of rehearsing or really thinking about it other than the bosses. So it's gonna be a little bit more off the cuff and we're gonna figure it out. I need to start off with an S tier so that I have some kind of basis. I'm gonna find me an S tier and a D tier. Just to have a basis. I'm gonna go... First, I'm gonna pull guitar into S tier. Guitar unlocks so much stuff. If I find guitar, I'm always happy. 2 cabins in caves. Igloo. Caves lobby. The back of Aztec. Helm. All kinds of stuff. Guitar is just needed for so many things. And if you don't have it, you're definitely in a loss. There's 2 places in Galleon. It might be the best instrument in the game. You summon the mech fish with it. The density is big time. It's needed for Helm. So some of the factors here with the moves are going to be like, are they needed for Helm? Am I excited to see them? Can I bypass them by doing other things? You're not really going to bypass a guitar check in any way. You can't get into the back of Aztec. You can't get into the Igloo, anything like that. Which is naturally going to make our guns and our instruments stronger, but... You know. Hunky Chunky feels like a pretty solid... Oh man, this is tough. I'm gonna start with C tier. No. I'm gonna put a B tier. So it's required for K Rool. So, and I feel like it's always chunky K Rool. Like, tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like it's always chunky K Rool. I don't know why. Hunky Chunky by itself, there is not a ton of checks, but all of them are kind of fun. You have this big gorilla dude. You get to run really fast. Who doesn't love Pound the X? You get to do Toy Monster. Hunky Chunky is a lot of fun, but when I find it in a randomizer, I care about what checks I can do. I'd say Hunky Chunky checks can't be bypassed by other moves, so you're kind of happy to see it. It's chunky, so you're happy to see it. It's helm required a lot of the time, so you're happy to see it. But it doesn't have a ton of extra utility because you have to find a barrel, and that holds back a lot of these barrel moves in general. So I put it solidly in B tier. Apparently we're going through all the chunky moves first. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab Pineapple here. I'm putting Pineapple in A tier. It's a gun. It does 3 damage. It has a big hitbox, but it is not required for Helm or K Rool. It opens the bean area, but it doesn't like unlock a whole lot. But I'm always happy to see it just for the sake of the utility. It's really nice to have Pineapple, and outside of check utility is very important for all the moves. When I see Simian Spring or something, I'm upset because I can only use it on that pad. All of the pad moves. I'm disappointed because it doesn't actually accelerate my game at all, other than letting me do some more checks. When I get Pineapple's S tier. I take it back. When I get Pineapple, I can go into the Vulture Room in Tiny Temple, and I can knock that bitch out in 2 hits. There's Strength. I can go into the gun minigame, and I can kill people in 1 hit. I can go up to Kasplats and destroy them in just a couple of Pineapples. It's so fast. Yeah, Pineapple's great. I actually got to give it S tier. It's got both check and in-game utility. That's pretty good. All right. That triangle. I'm gonna try to keep moving on these because I know the weekly. I don't know if anybody knows exactly when the weekly is, but it's got to be like. It might be in an hour, like 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm not sure. But I don't want to hold back if the DK64 speedrunning stream is restreaming that, because you gotta support the community, you know? We're gonna go triangle here. Should start in an hour, maybe not a restream. Got it. I would still love to see everybody go out and support the different streamers and runners in the community. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up before then, and I think we should. I'm a little caught on triangle. So it's required for... You know what? I think I'm rating too high. I'm put triangle in B tier. Triangle is not required for a lot of things. There's no big door to an area or something like that that's locked by triangle. It's required for... Ooh. Yeah. It's required for Helm. You've got, like, the claptrap room. You've got... caves, igloo, and cabins. And you've got the toy monster. But... triangle doesn't have a lot else going on for it. It's good because it's an instrument. Chunky also doesn't need that much help killing things. You could just use pineapple. So when you are chunky, triangle doesn't afford you that much of a benefit. It feels like the other instruments afford you more benefit. Saxophone lets you do the bean, it lets you do the anthill, etc. in combination with Mini Monkey. Trombone is required for both Helm and for K. Rool. Bongos, it feels like it's used in a lot of places. I'd say triangle might be the weakest of the instruments. But it's balanced out by being on a great Kong. Primate Punch. This is a toughie. I'm gonna put it in A tier. Primate Punch isn't that great for attacking enemies, for example. However, there are so many punch checks that are fast. And when I'm playing the randomizer, I want to do checks that are very fast so that I can get a GB or a junk item and move on with my day. I can go into the Galleon Caverns and I can just punch the treasure chest and then just punch the gate in front of the arena and do them and get out of there super quick. I can go into Factory and punch the gate to the dark room, get in there, get 2 dense checks very quickly. Everything that punch locks, which there's a lot of stuff that punch locks, is pretty efficient to complete the check. It's got utility out of the just checks because you can do damage with it. And it's also required for a K. Rool, which makes it A tier for me. Gorilla Gon's B tier. There are not many Gorilla Gon checks in the game. There's like the igloo. No. Not the igloo. There's the cabin. There's the castle like shed, but you can also have triangle for that. Now it does let you get in. It's required every seed. I gotta give it A tier. Here's the thing. It's required every seed. You can't not have Gon. It doesn't matter what Kongs. It doesn't. You need it to get the vines to appear in Helm, lobby to get into Helm. Yeah, that makes it A tier. Not a lot of utility, but also used in a K. Rool fight. So it's K. Rool fight, it's Helm lobby, all of those things. That puts it in solidly in A tier. I do gotta pick up the pace. There's a lot of stuff here. Holy cow. Rocket Barrel. A tier. S tier. Rocket Barrel is S tier. You need it for both Helm and K. Rool. Rocket Barrel can help you traverse an entire map extremely quickly. Castle. How would you like to go anywhere you want before having to climb the entire way up? Bang, rocket barrel. How would you like to go to the top of the mushroom without even having to climb it? Bang, rocket barrel. How would you like to go from the cabins to the igloo area in caves without having to hit the teleporters? Bam, rocket barrel. It's fast. You can't... The checks that require rocket barrel cannot be bypassed. It's a good move. It's a very good move. Peanuts. A tier. 2 damage. Very good for that gun minigame because you can hit on both sides of an enemy. Unlocks basically a bunch of japes needed for K. Rool. Pretty cool. They're pop guns. Made it into Smash. Also pretty cool. A tier. I don't have too much to say about that. Some of this is going to become repeated because the guns, the instruments, they're kind of like repeated tropes. Chimpy Charge. Oh, I'm rethinking this again. So Hunky Chunky, anything that's needed for K. Rool or Helm can't be lower than a B tier. This is where we start getting into the trash. Chimpy Charge is needed for like a slim handful of things in the game. A handful of things in Aztec and Aztec Lobby, Underground and Castle, R&D Diddy Room, which you like never do. There's just not much. It doesn't have utility outside. There's that one check you can skip in the Tiny Temple by doing the triangle door and like Chimpy charging in to skip the minigame, but that's like hard to do. Chimpy Charge does not have a lot going on for it. No utility, not required for a lot of stuff. It can't really be bypassed that much, unlike our next one, but it's not great. Next, Simian Spring. I'm gonna say this right now. This is the worst move in the game. Simian Spring is hot garbage. You can bypass almost every single Simian Spring check. I'm pretty much never happy when I find this move. I could just backflip. I need Diddy in the first place, so I've already got a high jump. And chances are I've also got Lanky or Chunky. So I'm just going to backflip and tag anywhere to switch to a Kong that can make the jump. In summary, Simian Spring is by far the worst move in the game, and I'm not ever happy to see it. I'd rather find an ammo upgrade. I would not rather find an instrument upgrade, but that's about it. Strong Kong. I'm gonna put Strong Kong as C tier. Strong Kong, putting Strong Kong at D tier. Strong Kong is not required for K. Rool. It's not required for Helm. In most places, it can be bypassed with enough melons. Or some kind of ponytail twirl trick. In fact, I can't think of a place where you absolutely need Strong Kong. Not the library, not the quicksand tunnel, not Cave's lobby, because you can boulder and PTT. You can PTT in the igloo. I think we found the two worst moves in the game right here. Strong Kong and Simian Spring, easy. Alright. Coconut time. I'm putting Coconut in S tier. So, we've talked about this a little bit, so I won't dwell on it. But Coconut just locks a lot of important stuff. It's not required for Helm. It's not required for K. Rool. However, it locks an entire area in Gloomy Galleon, the lighthouse, and that lighthouse influences the rest of the level through the water level. It's important. It locks so many of the checks in the hillside. There's that check in Creme Isle. It's got 2 damage associated with it. It's just a solid weapon, and I'm always happy to see it. And I'll generally, like, if I'm doing like item hinting and I see that like coconut gun is on a boss, I will generally go for that coconut even if I don't think I need it, depending on the time of the seed. Bongos. I think bongos is the second weakest instrument. I'm gonna put it in B tier. There are a couple dense checks associated with it. The DK cabin exclusively has 2 things inside of it, and one of them is peekable, which is pretty nice. You've got factory lobby. Wait, no, it's helm. Yeah, you do need bongos for helm, duh. Morning, not gonna be in long, but wanted to stop by for I continued doing bad at Master Quest. Well, Pyroki, thank you very much for stopping in, and good luck on your Master Quest adventure. Spirit Temple, right? You're at the Spirit Temple? Bongo's an instrument, so it's not going lower than B tier. In fact, I'd probably put it higher than Triangle. It feels like it has better utility than that. Very cool. Spirit Temple. No idea. Yeah, it sounds complicated. But bongos, there's not a ton locked behind bongos. You got 3 cabins. That's a highlight in Igloo. So if you got bongos, you're great in caves. Not that I like being in caves anyways. But thinking about the rest of the entire game, you got factory lobby. Not a lot more. That's why I'm putting bongos at B tier. Gorilla Grab. This is a toughie. This is right on the border between C and D. I think I'm gonna put it in D tier. But at the top of D tier. Gorilla Grab. If you have a Gorilla Grab check, you need Gorilla Grab for it. Donkey Minecart. And we'll excuse the factory lobby check. But the arena in factory, the mills behind the spinner check, all of it requires you to have grab, so there's no getting around it. That makes it top of D tier, but it's very limited. It has no utility in the slightest. A lot of times, those checks are so locked that you don't need them anyways. And depending on what it is, you might not want to have to do the thing behind it. If you go for the arena and factory, you still have to sit through like the opening, like kind of cutscene-y bit and like wait and then like leave if it's not a good check. Which means I'm not looking forward to anything I have to do with Gorilla Grab, except like maybe inside the mills. But I don't want to be in forest, I don't want it to be daytime, and I certainly don't want to go inside the mills. So I'm making that D tier. Blast. Baboon Blast, that's a pretty solid C tier. A lot of the same reasoning for Gorilla Grab, but there's a very big difference. Baboon Blast has utility in the fact that you can get bananas, colored bananas, and coins with your Baboon Blast. The courses can be pretty difficult, and I think I like the fact that it's a little bit difficult. It kind of separates some of the beginners from the experts and provides more of a skill ceiling, because you can really make your blast course checks efficient. And there's one, I believe, in every single level, so it is spread out pretty well throughout the levels. But am I happy when I see it? Probably not, because then I have to do a blast course, which feels like a pain in the ass. Which makes me put it solidly in C tier. Alongside homing. There are very few homing checks in the game, but I don't mind having it. Homing ammo is utility. It makes a lot of the shooting checks easier. I'm getting very distracted by this One Wing Kong music. It's such a jam though. I'm so excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Homing ammo has a lot of utility in those shooting games like Donkey Cabin, in Tiny Trash Can, in whatever you need to kill. particularly in combination with a gun like Chunky's Pineapple, you can kill things very fast and not have to be precise. Adds a little bit of convenience to your game. Even if it doesn't have a lot of checks, I'd say the utility is enough to bump it up to C tier. Ooh. Rank stand sprint, I'm putting in C tier. So rank stand sprint. Now I'm putting in D tier. There's some stuff you can only do with a rank stand sprint. That's for sure. Rabbit race, beetle race. I think that's it. But I never want to see that. I never want to do those races. I would rather just not do them. There, it sounds like the list. It's not fun to do those races. Without the lag, the rabbit race is a disaster, and the beetle race is very long. And if you think about some of the other rank stand sprint checks, you can bypass them all with the donkey roll, and if you're after the first like 3 levels, you're pretty likely to have most of the Kongs and have DK. If not, you can probably come back and get it. Meaning, there's very few things that you can actually get on one of those checks. And then think a little bit further. The rabbit race and the beetle race are behind other things as well. They're behind grape to get into the owl tree area. They're behind baboon balloon to get into the beetle race. So not only are they pretty unlikely, but anything I have to do with them is a nightmare. Which means, if I see it, I'm not happy. Which is why I'm putting a rank stand sprint solidly in D tier. Next we've got grape. I've talked about this a little bit. But grape does not provide a very good feedback sound when I hit an enemy. It gives me a very flaccid, like, sound. As opposed to the nice, like, boom, from like a pineapple. So even just using it, it doesn't bring me a lot of joy. He shoots it out of a cardboard tube. In beginner, it only has use if it locks DK. Yeah, honestly. It's almost entirely useless in beginner. I don't think I used it the entire time. And so grape even locks some of the rank stand sprint checks. But like grape is the last gun I would want to use in the gun minigame, surrounded by enemies, because where it gets shot is so far off from where the Kong's actually at that it's a little bit disorienting. Has a damage of 1. Grape Sniper has no sniper properties to it, unless you actually have the sniper ability, so it doesn't even accomplish what it sets out to do. It's not required for a K rule or a... Not required for a K rule or a helm. However, it does lock Owl Tree. I'm gonna put it like the bottom of B tier. I cannot morally put a gun lower than B tier, because a gun itself lets you do things like change the time of day, lets you shoot enemies in the air. You can't have a gun lower than B tier. But if it were that low, it would be great. Trombone. Trombone is A tier. This is Lanky's best move by far. And it's primarily because it's used for both K Rool and Helm. So there are many, many times in the randomizer that you need Trombone. And I find it can often be the clinch point for my entire seed. You use it in a lot of places across the game. 5-door ship. There's a cabin, there's an igloo, there's the Japes lobby, there's inside of the Llama Temple. Maybe not as much utility as I was thinking, which is probably why it's at the bottom of A tier. But just the fact that it's used by for both Helm and K. Rool means the likelihood of it popping up is so high. It's also an instrument, so it provides you with a melon at a very basic level. And the utility of being able to hit enemies in an extremely long reach beyond your current environment. So you can hit enemies behind a glass wall or something with this. And that's good on its own. So I'm going to give it A tier. Next is just a Rang stand. Okay. Here's the thing. You don't need a Rang stand for anything in this entire game. You can tiny kick slide everything else. You might need it if Tiny is behind in a Rang stand check. Maybe, because you could probably use DK for the same thing and just kick. Maybe get on top of it, something like that, like painting hill dirt. But is it going to be faster for me to tiny kick slide up something that's very steep, or a Rang stand walk up it? It's going to be faster to a Rang stand, so I'd be happy to go with that. Which means a Rang stand's utility outweighs its check value, which is kind of nice. Diddy can cartwheel a fair bit up a hill as well, as depending on how far you need to go. That's right, and there are a lot of Kongs that can do like this weird thing where you like kind of get up the hill and then do like an attack and then like jump and like cancel. I've never done that before, but it sounds like a lot of Kongs can get up a lot of hills without it. Regardless, it's faster to a Rang stand up them, and there are a fair amount of hills in the game. So when I see a Rang stand, I'm actually happier to see it than a lot of the other moves because it's just convenient. I don't have to worry about things. Which is... I'm still going to put it at the bottom of D tier because it's totally unrequired for just about anything. But it's neat. Baboon Balloon. What do we got here? Give me a second to think. So Balloon, usually it can be bypassed by a lot of things. There's a lot of places you can like Diddy into Chunky to bypass the Baboon Balloon check. But there are some places, and there's some places you can PTT around it. But there are some places you're not getting away from it, and there are some places that Baboon Balloon provides some extra utility to get where you need to go. A big example is caves. If you use the balloon pad on top of the castle, you can get to the lone Kasplat on the Lanky platform. It's nice to have a little extra utility there. The problem is, Baboon Balloon has horrendous controls. I feel like I have no control over what Lanky's doing. Like, he has so much forward momentum while I'm doing stuff. I kind of hate it. Like, I don't like being in Baboon Balloon state. However, I can't put it in D tier, because in NSAC, you can use Baboon Balloon to get up onto the top, and it is hilarious to watch Lanky fly up at the speed of a rocket to the top of Creme Isle. And that's why I'm going for C tier. Next we've got slams. This is relatively boring. I am going to give Slam a B tier, because it gotta go for funny options. You got that right, Pyrogi. I'm gonna give it a B tier because it's required for Chunky K. Rool, and then I'm giving super duper ass Slam a C because it is rarely used, but when it's required, it's like really required. Slams lock so much stuff. I gotta give it A. I'm never not happy to find a slam because it's useful for so much stuff. But I think at the end of the tiers is fine. It's rare that you need super duper, but when you need it, you really need it. There's so much stuff behind switches in this game that it is pretty useful. Next we got Sniper. I gotta give Sniper bottom of C tier. Most of what Sniper can do, homing can do better. There's very few checks you need it for. Nobody zooms. You don't know if there's a level that doesn't have a switch in it unless you can't home. Yeah, there's so many switches, so they're pretty valuable. I don't think... It feels like most of the stuff you could do with Sniper, you could do with homing, and homing also provides a little bit of homing to make it easier to hit things. Making it just inferior to homing. So I'm gonna put it at the bottom of D tier. Next we've got Mini Monkey, which is pretty easy A tier. There's a lot of... I feel like anytime I have Mini Monkey... Nope. Mini Monkey's S tier. You need Mini Monkey for Helm. K-Rool. For K-Rool. And all of the Mini Monkey checks, you're not bypassing with anything else. And they are all over the place. And they're dense. The best check in the game, Treasure Chest, is locked behind Mini Monkey. In Llama Temple, you've got a Kasplat and you've got a check right next to each other. Mini Monkey. Tiny Temple, Mini Monkey. Factory Lobby, or not Factory Lobby, Gloomy Galleon Lobby. There's another check. There's the submarine in Galleon. The like entirety of the Hive area. Frickin' there's the entrance to the second car race in Castle. There's the trash can. Mini Monkey, Anthill. Mini Monkey is used all over the frickin' place. And you get some good stuff from it. Mini Monkey is fantastic. I'm never unhappy to see it. Unless I have to get the Banana Fairy. But that is a different thing. Feather Bow. I'm gonna put Feather in A tier. Feather locks the BFI island check, which I almost always want to get because it's very convenient. It's a very fast gun. It feels like it comes out fast and it's very precise. I like it in the gun minigame because it comes out from Tiny's chest in the very center of her, so I understand at what angle it's coming out at. It locks the bean area, which is very good to have access to because there's a shop, there's the bean, there's the hunky chunky. But I wouldn't put it any higher because it doesn't unlock very much more than that. However, Saxophone I gotta rank a little bit higher. It does a lot of the same things. It's needed for Helm instead of K-Rool. It's needed for a lot of the same checks as Mini Monkey. It opens up Anthill. It opens up the bean. A couple other things. But it's less checks. It's just kind of an instrument like every other instrument. Cabins, you know, R&D. Actually, it doesn't even have an R&D because you just use Mini Monkey for that. Yeah, so it's just kind of an instrument for Tiny, but it's still saxophone. It's still an instrument, so it's still good to some degree. It's like right next to trombone. PTT might be the most interesting thing on this list. I gotta give it A. So PTT, not required for Helm, not required for K-Rool. A lot of the checks can be bypassed with DK. But, again, how happy am I to see it in a randomizer? Well, I'm typically very happy to see it in a randomizer, because it provides me utility unlike almost any other move in this entire thing. Maybe rivaled by Pineapple. I can start skipping over, like, horizontal gaps. I can move faster across levels. In the same way that I rank DK S tier because of movement, I gotta give PTT a pretty high ranking just because of how easy it is to navigate across the level. And there are certain checks that can't be navigated without PTT or are extremely difficult. I do not want to be trying to do the hands in the Tiny Crypt without PTT. It is a nightmare if I'm donkey kicking. Finally, we got Monkey Port. I'm gonna give it, like, highest of B tier. Like, there aren't a lot of Monkey Port checks in the game. They're very slim. But again, you need monkey port every single seed because you got to get to the top of Helm. So I'm like happy to see it, but it's got even. Man, I gotta adjust this a little bit. Gone and monkey port are kind of the same thing. It's like they're a requirement, so I like need them, but I'm not. I don't want them because of their utility, unless I want to pound the X or something like that. So that's where I'll put them. Yeah, that's that for now. Yeah, that's the move tier list.